Okay, here we are. This is a man who doesn't need any introduction. He's worldwide famous. I'm a big fan of you, Jimmy Lennon Jr. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Nice to be with you, and thank you for your kind words.
Thank you so much. You, like I always said, and I said to my husband, I said it just to you just 5 minutes ago. You always come across in such a humble, down to earth way. You're honest and you're present and you're sincere.
Well, thank you. I don't know what to say. Maybe it's the way I was raised. My father's a great role model to me. It's some of my belief system, and I get a little serious to start this. I truly believe that people are the most important things in the world. I mean, we can look at tremendous monuments, we can look at, great creation, but the way you treat people is very important. So I'll get the serious stuff out of the way. Now we can talk boxing.
Okay, let's talk about boxing. Number one, what do you think of what happened tonight? You're kind of used to this kind of things going on in boxing, right? What's your take on it?
Yeah, it was a great show. We had a little cannon shooting off feathers beforehand, calling Marcuson a chicken, and so that was kind of great fun. And then we had a little shoving match to start it off, so that's a lot of fun. It was safe, nothing too much. But being in Copenhagen, I don't know what to expect, so it was a little surprising to me. Even though I've seen a lot of things, it was still surprising to see that, and it's good showmanship. I think as long as it's somewhat in fun, it's okay. And tomorrow, that's the great thing about tomorrow, it's going to be just them. There's no more words. There's the two fighters and the referee, and it'll be a fair fight, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you do the talking in the ring, like my husband says.
Yeah, absolutely, no question. But, there is an importance of the weigh-in. It's a psychological game. It's the last chance for them to see each other, and there's a way to get an edge up here. I'm not sure. I think Marcuson was fazed by that. It was, I think, good fun. I think, Nielsen obviously came in very confident and ready to go, but Marcuson's been around a while and he knows what to expect. No surprises there, and I don't think anyone won the game of the weigh-in today. Tomorrow it's just going to be in the ring, and it's going to be a good fight.
It's going to be fun. I want to ask you a little bit about your love for the game. I know it comes from your daddy, but I want to talk a little bit about your first boxing match and the whole experience. If we can talk a little bit, go back in time and just give us a little sugar, please.
Sure. Well, I grew up with boxing. I watched it on TV. I thought everyone's dad was on TV, so sometimes we'd watch boxing, sometimes we'd see my dad, sometimes we'd change the channel, sometimes we'd keep watching. Yeah, it was just the same, part of my life. I went to the fights. I know that when my mom dropped pans, and it would kind of sound, she would drop a pan, it kind of sound like a bell, we'd all break into our Jimmy Lennon imitation routine. All right, fans, here we go. So it's just part of our life. So I love the sport. I truly do. I think I first started announcing as a young man. I graduated from college, and I needed some.
What did you graduated? Tell me a little bit.
Yeah, I went to UCLA. I studied psychology. Then I studied education.
Okay.
And I did become a teacher and then a head of a school after that. And I did that concurrently with announcing boxing. So that's a big part of my life. But it's been maybe 10 years. I've just done the announcing. Because it's a little bit much. But yeah, so I broke into it. My father convinced me. I didn't try to imitate him, but enough people said that I sounded like him and I looked like him. And here's an interesting thing. My dad had 5 kids. I'm the youngest, but somehow waited for me to name a junior. And I'm the only one that followed in boxing, the one that looks the most like him and sounded the most like him. So I think it was somewhat of a destiny that I become involved in the sport of boxing.
And do you get excited? Do you get nervous in front of the crowd? I mean, do you ever get used to it, the feeling, the laughter, the screaming? I mean, how does it work for you? What about the butterflies? Give me a little bit of the psychological process in your head before the fight and during the the beginning of the fight.
Yeah, I think I become kind of focused. When there's pressure and there's a lot, sometimes there are close to 1 billion people watching a fight when there are big events, whether it's from around the world or even in person. I really want to be prepared. I feel like every time I want to do my very best. I really feel I owe that. And but for me, when I get a little nervous or when there's pressure, I tend to focus. I kind of go to a focus spot. And so I'm fortunate in that way. And I've had a lot of opportunity to be in front of a lot of people and doing a lot of different wild events. But I'll find a quiet place, and I'll really try to focus. Tonight I'll spend a lot of time just thinking about the fights and crafting my words as best as I can. And I'll be ready tomorrow.
I wanted to ask you something that is interesting. When you talk about psychology, when you're watching just a regular fight on TV, Do you make a lot of notes? Do you like to sit down and take notes, even though you're not a fighter, but you know the game, you understand the game? How does it work for you? Because you know so deep about psychology and you're so into it. Do you make any notes when you're watching boxing?
I think I think I'm more into boxing than psychology. I will make note. I will score fights. I will, think of what needs to be done. I don't think I go to a place where I think of the psychological approach to the fight at all. I go to the place where is the style, the technique, the heart, the determination. Who's faster, who's stronger. I go like a typical fight fan. So I'm a fan when the fights are going.
What's the biggest misconception about boxing?
The biggest misconception, I think, is people who don't follow the sport of boxing thinks it's about violence and anger and beating up on each other. And we know that it's not about that. It's about, a sport. I think another misconception is boxers are not smart. And I think to be a great boxer, you have to be very intelligent. We talk about heart, determination, skill, style, speed, footwork, and there's intelligence that must be in a fighter to be great. But also the misconception of people are out to hate and anger. And we'll see that fighters will hug after a fight. I'm not sure if we will see that tomorrow with Markuson and Nielsen. I don't
Too much
know.
fire.
There's a lot of fire, and this is, I think, rare. I think most times there's a tremendous respect that the fighters have for each other, and it does so much good to have young men. I'm involved also in helping young fighters in a boxing club in Southern California. I help support the club that brings up kids who don't have a lot to do to bring them into the discipline of boxing and keeps them in a good place. So, there's so much good that comes out of the sport of boxing that those misconceptions do bother me, that either that they're not smart, that it's all about violence, and it's bad for kids. And
Yeah, they were, like Joey said, we think, Sissy, maybe not as fast as when you're in the ring, you have to do it, you have to perform, you got to do it. But all the process, all the training is behind you, but it's a thinking process, 100%.
yeah, no question, it's a thinking process. I almost equate it to my son was a wrestler. And, you really have to understand the opponent, understand the moves, know how to respond, how to react like a chess game. And so boxing can almost be equated to chess as well. So it's a sport I love.
And the other thing that I wanted to ask you, women boxing with one another, what do you think? Because this is a men's sport still. Do you think that's going to change anytime soon? Well, with women, can we get a little closer to men in that end?
I have a mixed reaction to that. And I think what I kind of come down to say is that good fighters, good women fighters, I enjoy to see them, to see the skill. There are some fighters that it's just not a good fight, it's not a good match, the skill level isn't there yet, and I don't enjoy that as much. I think, I look at MMA, which I'm also a fan of MMA, and I see how women have risen there, and I think I enjoy many of the women's bouts as much as the men's, if not more. And I do see some, great women fights, and so I'm in favor of it. And I like to see the skill level continue to increase and increase. And if you're a boxing fan, I think you'll like it too.
Who's your favorite boxer of all time? Oh, I know there's 1,000. That's not a fair question, but just give me 5, please.
Besides Joey Gamache?
Besides Joey Gamache, my hobby, yes.
Yeah, that's a very difficult question, and it's changed through the years. As a young man, I love some of the local fighters in Southern California. A person you probably don't know, Danny Little Red Lopez was my former featherweight world champion. I loved him, and I love Lupe Pintor of Mexico. As I grew a little older, Alexis Arguello was just my favorite. The way he carried himself in the ring and out of the ring. Julio Cesar Chavez has to be up there for me, as I did his first world title fight and did so.
I heard.
Tito Trinidad, what a great fighter, fun fighter to watch.
What about I'm sorry, but now that I have you here, I just want to keep asking you. You have so much knowledge. What about Mayweather and Pacquiao and Canelo and all those guys?
Yeah, we have some great Golovkin, is a great entertaining fighter today. And Bernard Hopkins, so they've changed through the years, but yeah, Pacquiao, a tremendous fighter, tremendous person. Mayweather, the biggest draw ever, the biggest pay-per-view king. His style is not as appealing to most fans, but master boxer, just one of the best I've seen.